So these are the characteristics.
Yes, ma'am.
These are the characteristics of romantic poetry or romantic period. Just 1 second, please. Okay, these are the characteristics of romantic period. Just as a brief, we need to consider here what are the characteristics. Love for nature. Romantic authors are extremely in love for nature, in love of nature. So they concentrated on the beauty of the external world as well as internal nature of everything. Then
Yes.
love for freedom. Freedom means here, the previous age, neoclassical period, did not allow authors or poets to talk in a free manner. That means they did not feel like they are free to express their own feelings, their own interests, etc.
Yes.
But romantic authors, they loved the freedom of expression. So whatever they feel in their minds and hearts, they are able to express. Then supernaturalism. Supernaturalism is nothing but giving importance to supernatural or mysterious, a kind of miraculous things. So everywhere they could see the spirit, the soul, a superpower, etc. So in that way, they brought that supernaturalistic feeling to their work. Then subjectivity. Subjectivity means nothing but they are going deep into inside. That means they go deep into their heart and they come out of that feeling. Means they start expressing whatever internally they feel. Subjectivity, that means. Then simplicity in their style. Their language is just spontaneous, without having any prior preparation, without having any prior effort, they are able to write. So spontaneously, then and there, whatever they feel, they could express. Then emotion and imagination. They gave priority to emotion. Emotion means the natural feelings, the spontaneous feelings, what we feel as human beings. So they gave priority to that emotional expression. Then imagination. They allowed human minds or human souls to imagine whatever is needed or whichever manner they wanted to. So in that way, they started concentrating on these things. Then who are the authors of romanticism? So here we can divide three genres or three categories of authors. Pre-romantic authors, that means from neoclassical period till the birth of romantic period, there was a gap around 10 years. So that we consider as pre-romantic period. So that is also called as pre-romantic era. So in which, especially William Blake, of course, there are few more, but William Blake is the prominent author who paved a path to romantic authors. So who revolutionary poet who is considered as a kind of pain, agony he expressed, pain of the world. Please mute yourself, ma. Then there are first generation and second generation authors of romantic period. First generation includes William Wordsworth, S.T. Coleridge. Then
Yes.
second generation includes P.B. Shelley and John Keats. So up to P.B. Shelley, we have completed the previous class. Then we are going to concentrate on John Keats.
John Keats.
Yes. So John Keats is regarded as finest romantic poet because of his peculiarity, uniqueness in his writing.
Yes.
So John Keats is unlike other romantic authors like William Blake and William Wordsworth and P.B. Shelley.
Yes,
Just
ma'am.
please don't disturb in the middle, ma'am.
Okay.
If you have any doubts, please let me clarify at the end. So Wordsworth and Shelley tried to reform poetry, tried to introduce a kind of reformation, a kind of change to writing poetry. And they advocated some of the reforms, whereas Keats worshipped nature. So in that way, he is different from other romantic authors, and he is considered as devotee of nature. He developed that devotion towards nature, and he feels perfectly happy whenever he was inside the nature. And he started sharing his love for nature in his works. So poetry, according to him, existed for its own sake, not for philosophy or not for politics. Poetry existed for its own sake, not for directing, not for instructing, not for something else. So in that way, he started talking about nature as a guide, as a teacher, as a savior, as a comfort. Then he is an escapist. How can we say that he is an escapist? Because of his the problems of his life, personal issues, various threats, a kind of grief, what he faced due to accidental deaths which took place in his life. So he wanted to have an escape from the reality to imagination. So this is also one of the characteristics of romantic period or romantic poetry. So he is tried to escape from the real, the present, the momentary life to a dreamlike world, an imaginative world where he cannot feel any sort of pain or a kind of problem. So in that way, he acted as an escapist. So poetry as a medium for him to have that escape. That's what we are going to see in his work, like Ode to a Nightingale, Ode on Grecian Urn, etc. Then quest for beauty. So whatever he looks at, he developed a kind of interest and to find out some beauty in it. So his quest for beauty allowed him to live in his imaginative world. So that quest we could see in almost all of his work, all of his presentations, expressions, like Ode on Grecian Urn, Ode to a Nightingale. Then his love for Greek. He was so much interested in Greek mythology, in Greek stories, and Greek culture. The same thing what he expressed in his works. So that is considered as Hellenism. Hellenism means longing towards Greek culture, Greek tradition, Greek myth, etc. Then his popular works are the first volume of poetry or collection of poetry what he published is Poems by John Keats in the year 1817. It is mixed with all the works, various subject matters. And then Endymion. Endymion is a 4,000 line allegoric romance based on Greek mythology. And it was published in 1818. And he wrote some of the finest poetry between 1818 and 1819. And he worked mainly on Hyperion at that moment. It is considered as a Miltonic blank verse epic of Greek creation myth. And the third and the best volume of poetry what he published in the year 1820 is Lamia. Then some other poems like Isabella and even the Eve of St. Agnes and other poems. This volume also, it has Hyperion in it, unfinished Hyperion. Then these important poems, Ode on Grecian Urn and Ode on Nightingale, are very finest odes through which we can see the beauty of English language and expression. And he died of ill health in the year 1821 at the age of 25. Within the limited span of time, he could produce beautiful work, and he has become one of the most important author of Romantic period. Then, before going to talk about Ode on a Grecian Urn, first of all, we need to consider what is an ode. Ode is a special kind of lyric. It is having its own characteristics. It is having its own style of writing or presentation. It has its own peculiarity even, through which we can understand the exact nature of the writer there, what and how he is, how he wants to present himself, how he wants to focus on his work, and through which we come to know what kind of character he is. An ode is a special kind of lyric, more dignified in its manner and elaborate in its style when compared to a simple lyric. When we concentrate on its origin, it originated in ancient Greece. The Greek poet Pindar was the first one to write in this manner. Then the other one who made some modifications to that is Horace. So that is the reason why these two are the main forms of ode, Pindaric ode and Horatian ode. So the word which ode has come from Greek word which means song. It was first used by Greeks for any kind of lyric, but later it was accompanied with the lyre. Lyre is lyre, or it is a musical instrument with strings. And altogether, ode is defined as a lyric poem of elaborate metrical structure, solemn in tone, and usually talking about a specific mind or soul, and taking the form of an address. That means it addresses something. It talks to somebody. So it is in the form of an address. Sometimes that address can be done to some abstraction, some feeling, some material, etc. So it is not written about something, it is written to something. It is written to talk to somebody or something. Then ode has lyric enthusiasm, enthusiastic in nature, very anxious to present something, and emotional intensity. It is quite emotional in tone, goes somewhere by leaving the world, external world, by escaping from the reality. Emotional intensity is there in ode. So in that way, it is spontaneous overflow of the poet's emotions. Ode is a spontaneous overflow of poet's emotions. And the theme of ode is dignified and exalted. And it has high seriousness. High seriousness is a concept invented by or proposed by Matthew Arnold in his study of poetry. So the theme of every ode, whichever the author would be, is dignified and exalted. It takes us to somewhere else. And the development of thought of an ode is logical and clear. So clear and so reasonable, it looks like. So these are some of the important points related to ode, and some of the important forms of ode writing are the Pindaric ode, the Horatian ode, the Victorian ode, and the ode. By having some modifications, we also have ode of modern period. So this is all about an ode. Then we have an ode on Grecian Urn. It is a very well-known poem written by John Keats, divided into 5 stanzas. The poem opens with an address where the poet speaks to an urn. Urn is nothing but a utensil or a bowl-like, which is used in ancient Greece to hold the ashes of the dead. So in that urn, they used to collect the ashes of the dead. And here, John Keats doesn't describe a specific urn belongs to somebody's ashes, but he knew Greek art from the art which is there on the surface of the urn, and then he experienced something in a first-hand manner when he visited the British Museum. So there he witnessed a marble urn, and he could impress, he could feel elated by looking at the beauty of that urn, the carvings of that urn. So he started developing a poem based on that urn. So the first stanza starts with an address. So poet calls that Grecian urn as unravished bride of quietness. That means unspoiled, unadulterated, impurified bride of quietness. He calls that urn as bride of quietness. He compares that urn, how a bride behaves like quiet at the time of marriage, and unravished, unadulterated, means pure, unravished bride of quietness. The chastity what a bride maintains, he talks about here. So the urn, which is more than 2000 years, and which is unravished, unspoiled, nothing damaged, nothing happened to that urn, no damage on the surface of the urn or even inside. It was like immortal. And in that way, he called that urn as unravished bride of quietness. And then he calls it Sylvan historian. Sylvan means pertaining to rural or pastoral kind of land, which records all the scenes of the woods, forest, beauty, natural beauty of the world. So he calls, because of the carvings, because of the painting which is there on the surface of that urn, he calls it as, because it represents the beauty of that rural location and the calmness and the pleasant atmosphere of that particular place. Sylvan historian, and he treats it as a person because he is addressing to that. He calls it as a person who can narrate a flowery tale. So in the first stanza itself, he compares that urn as, through the pictures, through the paintings, through the figures which are there on the surface of this urn, it can narrate a flowery tale. It is able to narrate a story which is a fairy tale like. So this flowery tale is more sweetly than our rhyme. That means no poet can write extraordinarily than the narration of the urn there. Then he starts describing the sceneries, the pictures portrayed on the surface of the urn. And there are deities, there are mortals, there are the pictures of both, because nobody is there to tell him who they are. We need to, by looking at the urn, we need to find out who are they. Are they deities? Are they mortals? Or both? Then the place, he talks about the place. Is it a place, Tempe, or dales of Arcady? The meadows he's talking about of Arcadia, a peaceful pastoral locations. And he continues to tell what men or gods are these, who are they, and what kind of people these are. And all the pictures, by looking at them, a kind of curiosity developed in his mind, and he wants to find out the reality behind the picture there. So by the end of first stanza, his mind is filled with all the questions and he wants to find out answers to it. Can he consult anybody? No, because this Grecian urn belongs to long ago period. So nobody is there to give him all the details. So being a poet, he wants to, or he wishes to give answers to his own questions. Then by the beginning of second stanza, he started describing what kind of music which is there on the surface of the urn, painted on the surface. So by telling heard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter. So here the melody which is coming out of the pipe there is unheard. So because of that unheard nature, that rhyme or that music would be sweeter. So heard melodies, anyway we are hearing, we are listening to that music, we are able to understand, we are able to find out what kind of music it is. So that heard melody is sweet, of course, but those unheard, because we are unable to listen to it, so we feel that, we imagine that they are sweeter than the heard melodies. and therefore he feels these pipes are soft enough. So the music which is coming out of those pipes never ends. And the music which is not for the sensual ear, but to the spirit, the musical spirit which is there inside. And then he describes the sceneries and pictures on the surface of the urn. So he seems to be telling, or this, the pictures seem to be telling us something which never in reality, which is not at all possible. So the poet seems to be telling those pictures, talking to those pictures, that they never leave their happy state, happy life. So here he is addressing their youth who sat under the tree. He can't leave the place because it is a picture, not reality. So he stays forever there under the tree. And his song never ends. It doesn't have any endings. Just like that, the trees, they never shed their leaves, and the song never finished. And bold lover, these are all the pictures on the surface. Bold lover who desires to kiss the beloved, but he never reaches his goal. But don't feel bad or don't feel grief, because that beloved cannot fade, cannot lose her beauty. So in that way, she never loses her bliss. So in that way, the love which is there in the heart of the lover there, young one, never disappears. And she be fair. The beloved will be fair or loyal to her lover. So in that way, he seems to be telling something. They never leave their happy state because it is portrayed like that on the surface. There is no chance of having a change in it. Then he addresses, in the third stanza, he addresses to trees. And he calls all those branches as happy branches because they cannot shed their leaves. They never say goodbye to the spring season. And a music player, happy melodist, he never feels tired because his pipe always sings. The songs are forever new. And he talks to a lover there. His love is happy love, forever warm and still to be enjoyed. So even that love never be changed, never be altered. So forever that love is young. So in that way, they are immortal. They never face any change in their will or wish. So if there would be a chance of changing their impression over their beloved, so there would be a problem of ill health. But here, as their love is immortal, there is no chance of facing all these problems which come due to the breakup. Then fourth stanza, he portrays a mysterious world of ritual in which he's talking about a sacrifice, and he also imagines where they are going, to which place or which altar where we can sacrifice animals or something. So he calls it as a mysterious world as well as mysterious priest, because that priest is leading the group to some ritualistic place. And there he is talking about, he is imagining a heifer. Heifer is nothing but a cow. So it is lowing at the skies, it is looking at the sky, it is asking something to the sky, which means he is expecting some help, some sort of save from the sacrifice. And there is a description of the body of heifer here. It is decorated with all silken flanks, silk cloths with garlands. So what kind of sacrifice it is and where it takes place? A kind of curiosity as well as interest to know where the group is reaching to. And he answers to his own question. He tries to give a kind of conclusion to his curiosity. That means they are going to a little town, or they are from a little town, a riverside little town, or a seashore, or the place is inside the mountain built area, or because of their journey to some altar or some place, holy place. So their city or their village or their little town is emptied in this pious morning, he says. And the little town will be always silent because these people never return to their village. And there is nobody to tell the story of that village now onwards. And by the end of the poem, the final stanza, he comes back to the same urn. He calls it as Attic shape, which is having fair attitude. That means it never tries to cover anything or hide anything. Fair attitude, it is showing everything as they are. I mean, the pictures are. And it is made up of marble. And it is decorated with forest branches and trodden weeds, but still silent shape. It is in silence, living in silence and advocating silence. So in that way, the poet feels that it is teasing us out of thought, as does eternity, cold pastoral. In a cold pastoral manner, as it is made of marble, he feels or he seems to tell that it is cold. So the harsh reality, what it is suggesting is everything is going to be changed. Nothing is permanent in this world. Then what is permanent? So as per the poet's intention and his point of view, that beauty is truth and truth beauty. That is all we need to know, that we need to know. The world needs to know the timelessness and the permanence or immortality of art. That is the only one which is permanent. Human beings take birth and die after a while, but the art never dies. It establishes itself as immortal enough. So in that way, he ends the poem by conveying that beauty is truth, truth, beauty. That is the only truth we need to focus on. Then Victorian period, Alfred, Lord Tennyson and Robert Browning are the most important authors here. The characteristics of Victorian period are, there was due to technological development, due to expansion of trade and commerce, there was a conflict between science and religion. Religion gradually was going to lose its existence due to the advancements of science. Then imperialism. The rich countries like England was expanding itself to the world and trying to capture the lands. Imperialism. Then industrialization. Due to technological innovations and inventions, industrialization came into existence. So due to that industrialization, human nature, human conduct have been changed. Then excessive materialism. Due to the innovations and inventions, materialistic life became excessive. Means people started giving priority to luxuries. Then adventurous life. When advancement took place in all the fields, adventurous life also came into existence. Most important authors of Victorian period are Alfred Lord Tennyson, Robert Browning, Elizabeth Barrett Browning, who is the wife of Robert Browning. Matthew Arnold is a poet as well as a critic. And Charles Dickens and Bronte sisters. 3 sisters are there, Bronte sisters. So these are the novelists, Charles Dickens and Bronte sisters. So these are about Victorian period. And what is dramatic monologue? Before going into the main authors and their works, Alfred Lord Tennyson and Robert Browning, we need to know what is dramatic monologue. Dramatic monologue is a literary poetic form where the writer takes on the voice of a character and speaks through that character. So here, in Ode, the poet expresses himself purely autobiographical in nature, autobiographical feelings he expresses in the form of ode writing. Whereas in dramatic monologue, of course, the poet expresses his feelings, but it's not compulsory. So he takes the character as a medium. Through that voice, through that tone, he speaks something. So character describes something, character portrays something here. So this dramatic monologue is a kind of lyric which was used and improved by Robert Browning. So we can say that Robert Browning is the inventor of dramatic monologue. Then when we come to the characteristics of dramatic monologue, it is a long speech by a single person, but different from soliloquy. Soliloquy is a concept or a technique used in drama. So when a character, when a character speaks something outward to the audience, then it is called as soliloquy. But it takes place only in drama. There is no other character listens to that speech of the character there. In soliloquy, I am talking about. But in this dramatic monologue, there is a speaker who speaks something to an invisible listener. We feel that as it is not performed on stage or it is a lyric kind of work. So as readers, we can feel, we can imagine, we can believe that there is a listener, there is an audience to the speaker. But the audience or the listener's role is so passive. Only speaker plays an active role, who is none other than, not at all a poet, but his views sometimes contradict with the views of the poet. The speaker who came out, who took birth out of the imagination of the poet, but through that speaker, the poet conveys something which may not match with the views of the poet. Then here the speech makes use of specific situation at a crucial moment. The speech here is based on a specific event, and it talks about a crucial moment. Then speaker addresses and interacts with one or more people. The listener would be one or more, and whose presence can be felt, but they cannot respond. As I said, they are like playing a passive role. And the subject of monologue is self-revelation. So the speaker here is revealing his own character to the readers here. Then Alfred Lord Tennyson. Alfred Lord Tennyson is a major Victorian poet, mainly known as the most illustrative poet of 19th century. And he was also a national poet laureate. And his poetry was based on classical mythology. And that we can see in Ulysses. And his poetry is didactic in nature. That means which instructs. His poetry instructs the reader in a positive manner. It acts like a motivator, inspiration to the reader. Then Tennyson's poetry comprised richness of imagination, imagery, and musical language. Then his themes are, he dealt with the themes of spirituality and philosophy in his poetry. His themes are the representative of Victorian age, because no poet can escape the circumstances or the issues of that particular age. Then his general themes are death, nature, grief, spirituality, time, and courage. So in Ulysses, we are going to see spirituality, time, and courage as main themes. So Ulysses is the speaker of this poem. There is a background behind the title here. Ulysses is known as Odysseus in Homer's work. He was the king of Ithaca, and Ithaca was a barren island which is located at the Gulf of Corinth. And Ulysses was one of the wisest men, most capable of Greek leaders in the War of Troy. This is the story behind the character Ulysses. So here in this particular poem, he is speaking something in relation to his interest, his desire, what he wants to do further. So he feels that living a common life, like a king of Ithaca or a family man, a husband, responsible husband, and father to a child, is not worthy enough, because something else is awaiting, he feels. And he desires to go away for new experiences. Means he wants to explore the world, he wants to get all the knowledge, he wants to attain all the knowledge which would forever develop his wisdom and his understanding of the world. And he keeps on describing how difficult it is for him to stay or sit on the throne of Ithaca, because he feels that his son Telemachus is good enough and perfect enough to rule these uncivilized people, the people who just do their duty and live their life. They do not have any interest to attain knowledge and do not want to have a change in their life, etc. So he feels that it is the time for him because the life is too short. He lived a maximum life by participating in that war of Troy. So it is the time for him to make better use of the remaining period. So he starts talking about how he can explore the world. And he also encourages his own people by telling that the port is ready, the vessel is ready to sail. And he addresses his mariners and he calls his mariners as brave souls. They toiled a lot in their war and still they are good enough to explore the world. So he imagines to have a journey through which he wants to conquer knowledge, world of knowledge. Then Robert Browning. Robert Browning is the master of dramatic monologue, and his poems are little complex, filled with complex human motives in a variety of historical period. So his characters are from historical period, but his poems, especially as he is the inventor of dramatic monologue, his characters reveal themselves by sharing their own views. And he is also an inventor of language and versification of a specific style, that is dramatic monologue. Then here, My Last Duchess is prescribed for our syllabus. So My Last Duchess is one of the perfect examples of dramatic monologue. The speaker of the poem is a duke, that is the Duke of Ferrara. He is addressing the messenger of a count. So this messenger is none other than the listener. Of course, as readers, we are also listening to the speaker, but still we feel the presence of a count there, a messenger of the count there. So actually this messenger he has come to negotiate the marriage of the count's daughter, because this speaker, Duke of Ferrara, very recently, he lost his wife, the first wife. So now he is negotiating the marriage of the count's daughter with the messenger. And on the way to have that negotiation, the Duke talks about his first wife, who is so innocent, who is so kind, who is so much childlike. According to his impression or his opinion, she is like childish. She was actually, now she is no more. So she was like childish. She did not have any variations in her position, in her relationships, etc. And he complains, the Duke complains of his first wife about her behavior. And her behavior, she did not maintain, according to him, according to the Duke of Ferrara, she never maintained her dignity. Being the Duchess, she never maintained her dignity or her position. To whomever she could meet, she used to greet in response. Being a person of position, she must maintain her dignity according to his impression. But she never posed like a Duchess. And she never maintained that variation, difference between her husband and the outsiders, whomever she met on the way. With whomever she confronts, she used to confront with them, she used to speak in a polite manner. She used to blush with a small praise or appreciation, admiration by the outsiders. So these are all the complaints of the Duke to the messenger. And he also talks about his family background. So according to his expression, his family was having 900 years of history. So how great the family was. So in that way, to that family, his wife, his last wife was not, she was unable to fit to the reputation of the family there. And he also conveyed how he got annoyed by her behavior, and due to that irritation, how he asked or commanded his soldiers to stop all the smiles of his first wife. So that means he announced or he commanded his soldiers to kill his duchess. So through which he conveyed to the messenger that what kind of wife he was expecting and what kind of behavior she must possess, the coming wife, the new wife, the future wife. By the end of the poem, he says that the main consideration in marriage is the bride, not anything else. But still, indirectly, he proposes. He expects a large dowry from the count. So this messenger needs to transfer all the information related to the meeting with the count there. And the poem not only reveals the character of the Duchess here, but indirectly it reveals the nature of the Duke, who is so unkind, who is not at all a broad-minded, heartless person. So here a character sketch we can see, especially in the form of dramatic monologue. By this, I am going to end my session. So these are the topics which I have gone through is from block 2. If you have any doubts, please, you can avail chat box and get the clarity. So throughout block 2, we concentrated on the authors of Romantic period as well as authors of Victorian period. So here we could finish half of our syllabus. Then block 3, we are going to concentrate on 20th century authors. Then block 4, American. Then block 5, Canadian and Indian, Australian.